All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's training on the discretionary funding process. This webinar is designed to help nonprofit organizations understand and participate in the City Council discretionary funding process. The Mayor's Office of Contract Services, also known as MOCS, leads procurement for New York City. We serve as an oversight and service agency dedicated to making it easier to do business with the city. One of the ways we do that is with our digital procurement system called Passport. Today, we will begin with an overview of the New York City Council Discretionary Awards and its process. We'll also share a bit about the clearance process that it takes place before registration can occur. Then, we'll talk about the procedural requirements for discretionary awards and how to complete them to receive full clearance. Finally, we will review the MOCS websites and the resources you can find there. So let's begin with an overview of the City Council discretionary funding. Here are the basics of the New York City Council discretionary funding. First of all, what is it? Discretionary funding is a monetary award given by the New York City Council to meet local needs and fill gaps in city agency services. It is money allocated from the city's expense budget in accordance with the Procurement Policy Board rules. Unlike competitively awarded agency contracts, discretionary funding contracts are awarded for a single fiscal year. There are several categories of discretionary funding used by the City Council. Each serve different purposes. For example, there's member local initiatives. These are each when each member of the council receives an annual amount to meet the local needs in the member's district, known as local initiatives. City Council local initiatives, often referred to as the Speaker's List, is funding allocated directly from the Speaker or members that requests that the Speaker fund of an organization whose scope of services exceeds their individual ability to fund, or which serves a larger geographical area. Then there's citywide initiatives. These are when the council may also initiate programs for addressing community needs that fills are lacking by existing agency programming. To extend the reach of agency programs to underserved communities or populations. In most cases, the council will provide funding to specific not-profit providers. Excuse me. So, who is eligible for discretionary funding? Eligibility criteria include an organization being incorporated as a non-for-profit, having a current registration with the New York State Attorney General's Charities Bureau, unless they're exempt, and having a valid federal employer identification number. Religious affiliated organizations are eligible if they meet eligibility requirements, but under no circumstances are for-profit organizations eligible for discretionary funding. Finally, what are the benefits of applying for discretionary funding? These awards are non-competitive, meaning there is no limit on the number of organizations that may apply and receive funding. Additionally, unlike competitive funding, discretionary awards are available every fiscal year. Last but certainly not least, the minimum funding amount a member can designate is currently $5,000. However, do keep in mind when applying that the amount requested should be based on the program or service being provided. So now here's a general overview of discretionary funding. Begins when you apply for discretionary funding. You'll then wait for City Council to vet you, which is called City Council Award Clearance. While this is happening, you complete your procedural requirements and then contracting tasks and passport if you receive the award. Complete contract registration, actions, and manage your contract by submitting budgets and invoices. So what do you need to apply? So here are some things you can do to prepare for applying. Confirm your eligibility by reviewing the Council funding policies and procedures. There's more information at the Mayor's Office for Nonprofit Services website. Do your research. Identify your council member and district. Building relationships with council members are important. Form one so they can get to know your organization, fully understand what your request is, and how it relates to them, their district, their borough, etc. Schedule C is funding provided by the council to support not-for-profit organizations and local projects that address community needs. Explore fiscal year 2025 Schedule C to see past initiatives. Be ready to answer application questions about the scope and aims of your program. And then only one person should submit the application for your organization. So the application is only available on the City Council's website at council.nyc.gov/budget. Here's a quick reminder. If your organization already has a multi-year discretionary contract, funding is not guaranteed, and therefore you must submit an application to City Council each year that you wish to receive funds. For fiscal year 2026, that is work that starts on July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. The application is now open. Your priority should be completing this application. The fiscal year 26 application opened on January 6th and will close on February 19th at 5 p.m. No extensions will be given. The City Council is very strict. Do not wait until the last day to submit. Application asks for information about organization's experience, qualification, integrity, and the program or service for which the organization is requesting support. For more information about the application, please contact City Council at discretionary@council.nyc.gov. Let's discuss the City Council award clearance. Let's talk about the basics. So, City Council award clearance is a thorough vetting process to assess integrity, compliance, and service delivery. This internal vetting process takes 3 to 4 months. Check the award tracker regularly to see if your organization has been cleared. It's updated roughly every 6 weeks. Schedule C is the name of the document that lists the discretionary funds allocated by the New York City Council for not-for-profit organizations and agency initiatives. It is usually released in June. If a discretionary provider's award is still pending after the release of Schedule C, then the City Council discretionary unit should be contacted. If you still have questions, you can refer to the City Council's discretionary funding policies and procedures. Watch the most current discretionary budget training video or email the City Council discretionary unit at discretionary@council.nyc.gov. Next, we'll be talking about the procedural requirements for award clearance. So what are the procedural requirements for award clearance? It's important to note that the City Council clearance is considered a procedural requirement. If any of your awards are currently pending City Council clearance, please reach out to City Council discretionary unit at discretionary@council.nyc.gov. We'll be doing a quick overview of the remaining requirements, beginning with creating a passport account. Next, submitting a HHS pre-qualification application. And finally, completing a capacity building training. If you need a more detailed walkthrough of these requirements, you'll be able to find them in the resources we'll be discussing at the end of the webinar. So here are some things to keep in mind as we talk about the procedural requirements. Please note, These requirements do not need to be completed prior to applying for discretionary funding via a City Council application. Your priority should be completing the discretionary funding application. However, it is most ideal to complete these between the time you submit your City Council application and Schedule C to avoid delays in registration and invoicing. The key is to complete these prior to the designation of any awards so that you have a better chance of receiving an award and so that the process can move forward as quickly and efficiently as possible upon award designation. So let's talk about passport creation. Here are some passport basics. Passport is the city's system for management procurement. Accounts are created for an organization. Individuals within the organization have access to the account. They are called users or contacts. Users in the organization's account can have different privileges that allow them to complete different tasks in Passport. These are called user roles or profiles. Let's discuss how this works. So here are some things you need to know about requesting a Passport vendor account. To create a Passport account for your organization, you'll need to have a NYC.ID. A NYC.ID, pronounced nice ID, is an email address and password that you will use to log into Passport. You can also use the same nice ID for other city agencies, city services. Note that this is not the same as ID NYC, the city's identification program. nyc.gov/passport has a link where you can create a nice ID. What information is needed when you request the account? You'll need to have the legal business name, tax ID number, name and contact information for the CEO or equivalent, business address. We know your time is precious, so you'll probably be asking, so how long does it take to get a nice ID and request an account? If you're computer savvy and prepared, around 30 minutes or less. How long does it take for the account request to be verified? It usually takes 1 to 2 business days. Additionally, the person who requests the account for your organization is designated as the administrator. We call them the vendor admin. They can add contacts and assign user roles. So for those of you who already have a nice ID, you're using with another city system such as City Record Online or otherwise known as Kroll, there's no need to register for a new one. You simply start from nyc.gov/passport and click the Passport Login button, which is directly above Register Nice ID button. Then you click on the Login button on the Passport System page, bringing you to the Passport Login form. Enter your Nice ID email and password, then click the Login button. That will take you to this screen where you have the option to click the Create Account button. This Create Account button will take you to the Vendor Passport Account Request form. You see here that this individual is logged into their Nice ID profile because the profile and the logout links are on the top right. This is the Passport Vendor Account Request form. Again, you'll see the Nice ID is logged in here. The profile and the logout links are at the top right. There are instructions to read at the top as well as a series of sections with fields that require to complete the form. Those are identified by the red asterisk. You'll be putting in information regarding your vendor account, such as your legal name, corporate structure, tax ID or EIN, your organization's primary address, and your CEO's information or CEO equivalent. Additionally, as the requester of this organization's account, you'll notice that the requester contact information will be pre-populated with some information because it's pulling from your Nice ID profile. However, Please remember to enter your phone number as the information was not collected during NICE ID registration. After you fill out all of the fields, you'll want to go through the security component, then click the Register button located at the top of the page. So after you submit the form by clicking the Register button, the request goes straight to the MOCS team who will be reviewing and processing these requests. Should you be approved, the requester will receive an email notification from Passport signaling you to log in. That individual, the requester, is automatically the vendor admin or the account administrator for your account in Passport. Once you have your Passport account, note that the person who requests the account for your organization will have the most privileges. They will be given the user role or profile called vendor admin. Think of this as the administrator. The vendor admin can add people to the account and assign them roles. Once your account is created, stay focused. You only have 4 tasks. Log into Passport, update basic information in your vendor profile, update your contacts by adding users and assigning them a role. All this should take you about 15 to 30 minutes. Then start working on the HHS PQL application, which will take much longer. Ignore everything else or you'll get overwhelmed. Trust us. So now what is this HHS PQL and why do we need to apply? Here's the basics. First of all, what is the Health and Human Services Pre-Qualification List, the HHS PQL? The HHS PQL application collects information to verify each organization's ability to establish or maintain a business relationship with the city. How does getting pre-qualified benefit vendors? Maintaining your pre-qualification is very important and required for organizations that want to receive City Council discretionary awards. Pre-qualification can help your organization respond to other health and human services opportunities in Passport. Most nonprofits will need to update their documentation every year in order to maintain their approved HHS pre-qualification status. So here's a very simplified version of the process. First, you find the HHS pre-qualified list in Passport. After creating a new application, you'll then complete a questionnaire. You're going to then submit your filings documents. And finally, you will monitor your application status as MOCS reviews your submission. Of course, you're going to have to provide documentation. You will have to submit information about your organization's structure, bylaws, tax filings, policies, and financial controls. Required filings documents depend on your nonprofit organization's revenue and other factors. For more detailed discussion of the documentation and its expiration dates, see our webinar recording, Nonprofits Submitting Charities Filings and Passports. So now let's talk about the user roles that are going to be needed. To create, sign, and submit a PQL application, users must be provisioned with at least the Vendor Procurement Level 2 or Vendor Admin user roles. Vendor Procurement Level 1 users can complete an application but cannot sign or submit the application for review. Only the vendor admin has the power to manage contacts and provision user roles. The HHS pre-qualification application is in Passport, not HHS Accelerator. To access the HHS PQL application in Passport, we must go to the Browse Pre-Qualified List page. From the RFX module in the top navigation menu, click Browse Pre-Qualified List. If you can't see the Browse Pre-Qualified list, then it's possible that you are not provisioned with one of the correct user roles. On the Browse Pre-Qualified list, type the letters HHS into the Keywords field, then click the Search button. The search result will displayed in the table will show important information regarding the pre-qualification list. Note, the label says HHS Accelerated Pre-Qualification, but this has nothing to do with the decommissioned HHS Accelerated platform. This was the original name of the list when it was first developed, and we haven't changed it. To view the HHS Accelerated Pre-Qualification list, click the PQL ID or PQL label. So here's what happens after you submit your pre-qualification application to MOCS. MOCS will review your application in detail. You will be updated via email to learn whether your application has been approved or if revisions are needed. It's your responsibility to keep an eye out for an email notification so you will know as soon as possible whether your application is approved and you have completed the HHS pre-qualification requirement or if it has been returned to you. The email you receive will contain notes and instruction from the reviewer on what changes are needed to resubmit your application for approval. If you need any clarification, you can receive assistance quickly by contacting the person listed in the notification. For either of these scenarios, it's critical to keep an eye out for passport emails. Maintaining your pre-qualification is very important. Remember to update your documentation and application each year. Now let's take a closer look at the capacity building training requirement. In addition to completing the HHS PQL, City Council discretionary funding recipients must also complete the capacity building training. What is it? The Capacity Building Training e-course is a self-directed online course that provides an overview of the discretionary award process. The training covers topics such as legal compliance, financial management, and board governance. Who should take the CBT course? A member of your organization's board or executive staff must take it, but we encourage anyone who has the time and availability within your organization to take it and gain a deeper knowledge of capacity building best practices in the nonprofit sector. What's the time commitment? The course time is roughly 90 minutes long, and once you've enrolled, you have 30 days to complete it. The course is meant to be interactive, so you will need to click on all parts and read every section to complete the course. How long does the CBT certification last? So completion certificates are for individuals, not for organizations. So if a board member or executive who took the course leaves your organization, then their replacement must take the course. Otherwise, the capacity building training completion certification lasts for 3 years. Do I need to email MOCS when I completed the training? No. We will check periodically. So to access the capacity building training, go to nyc.gov/tracker. Once you're there, go to the capacity building training section and find information to help you enroll in the course. This includes the registration link, the access code, and step-by-step instructions. All right, here's your next steps. Use the discretionary award tracker to help you keep track of your procedural requirements. It's updated about every 6 weeks. Look up your organization by name and check the award status. If it says cleared, contracting agency, then you've completed the procedural requirements. You'll then have to contact the agency to continue the contract registration process. All right, let's talk timelines. Normally, City Council discretionary funding applications are made available between the first week of January until mid-February. This year, the fiscal year 2026 applications were made available on January 6, 2025. The deadline for applications is February 19th, 2025. This should be completed first. This is a hard and unchanging deadline. After you apply for funding, complete the procedural requirements. Create or update your passport account, HHS-PQL application, capacity building training, and even if you already have a multi-year discretionary contract, providers are still required to complete the procedural requirements for award clearance every year that they receive funding. Although this isn't a requirement at this point, this is also a good time to complete your organization's vendor enrollment in Passport if you haven't already. You will have to as a part of the award task, so completing it now can save you time later. Schedule C information comes out near the turn of the city's fiscal year, June or July. Once you've completed the procedural requirements, keep watch for award clearance news. Continue monitoring the discretionary award tracker. The discretionary award tracker is updated about every 6 weeks. It can help you see what to do next. If you've received a discretionary award, complete award tasks and documentation that may be required by the agency. At this point, you will have to complete vendor enrollment in Passport. Then manage your contract by submitting budgets to the agency for approval, submitting invoices, and get paid. All right, so now it's time for me to share some resources that are relevant to the topics I've discussed today. To search the status of all City Council discretionary awards from the past 3 fiscal years, visit the Discretionary Award Tracker at nyc.gov/tracker. This resource is updated periodically, approximately every 6 to 8 weeks, as new cleared lists and transparency resolutions are released by the City Council. Please refer to the date as of date to see when the last update occurred. If you scroll down to the bottom of this webpage, you will be able to view each of these statuses reflected in the award tracker and what they mean. If you click the Discretionary Award Process tab, you'll learn more about the process and find links to the Discretionary Funding Guide, checklist, and the webinar on Passport financials for discretionary providers. The Capacity Building Training tab takes you to our Capacity Building Training page, where you will learn more and find instructions on how to enroll. You can access our Learning Resource Library page by visiting nyc.gov/learn passport. On that page, we recommend using the panel on the right to get the topics you're interested in. If you want to learn about how to create an account, go to the Get Ready to Do Business section. To learn more about the HHS PQL, click on Show the City Who You Are. To add or change user roles, go to Update Your Account. Remember to visit the Trainings tab on nyc.gov/learn passport. There you'll have the opportunity to sign up for future trainings and see webinar recordings. You may want to check out the recordings about the HHS PQL application, charities filings in Passport, and award clearance for NYC Council discretionary funding. If you still have questions or you need help navigating Passport, check out our MOCS help page by visiting nyc.gov/MOCS help. You can review answers to frequently asked questions to address your Passport issues. The MOCS help page also has resources for nonprofits on the NYC Nonprofits page, which includes information about discretionary funding and the Indirect Cost Rate Initiative. To submit an inquiry to the MOCS service desk, click the link at the bottom of the page. All right, so during registration, we asked you if you had questions about discretionary funding. Here's some of those questions and their answers. So, how does discretionary funding work with budgeting and invoicing in Passport? We have a webinar all about Passport financials for discretionary providers. We'll drop the link in the chat, and you'll be able to click on this link when we share our slides. If my organization serves several city council districts, should I submit multiple applications? No, you should only submit one application. However, you may have to submit separate applications per type of discretionary funding/initiative. How can I find discretionary funding opportunities for the specific services, for example, housing services, counseling, youth mentoring, etc., my organization provides? So you're going to please review City Council's discretionary policies and procedures to learn about the different types of initiatives discretionary funding can be used for. All discretionary funding opportunities begin with the City Council application. There will be a section that allows orgs to describe the services/programs they would like to provide using discretionary funding. Once City Council reviews this, they will determine if an award should be designated, the scope of work that the award should be used for, and which contracting agency will process the award contract. For example, DSS, DYCD, etc. But we thank you for your questions and we thank you for being here today. Everyone have a great rest of the day. We wish you luck with everything that you are endeavoring to do.